You're listening to the Sports Circus, and I'm Mike Golick.
Welcome to the Sports Circus. I'm your Ringmaster Sal, live from Las Vegas in the AMP TV studio, AAMP.TV. Today's show is brought to you by UppercutChops.com. Check out their tasty selection of all natural, dry-aged USDA prime Wagyu steaks and chops. Wait till you taste their best-in-class New York steaks. The filet mignon, of course, the king of all those cowboy cut and tomahawk cut ribeyes. Best in the business, best I've ever had, probably be the best you ever have as well. Also, try those Wagyu prime burgers. 1 pound, anywhere from a half pound to 1 pound. Biggest and best I've ever had. Oh my God, best. Listen, folks, I don't get anything for saying this. They're that good. Check them out at UppercutChops.com. That's UppercutChops.com. Or give them a call, find out what's for dinner at 702-799-9935. 702-799-9935. Again, 702-799-9935 for UppercutChops.com. Yes! Man, those are good. All right, welcome in to everybody listening in on our CBS, NBC, and Fox Sports affiliates and independents from coast to coast. Everybody watching on Cox, Comcast, Spectrum, Frontier, Oceanic, Time Warner Cable, and Hotel Television. We're back here with Dave Jackson, our NHL rules analyst, also the ESPN rules analyst for NHL hockey. And Dave, welcome back to the show. Of course, it's always pleasant to have you back.
Good to see you, Sal. Sorry it's been so long since the last time, but, we had a couple of holidays get in the way, and just your life gets in the way, but good to be back.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And listen, sometimes every now and then we all need a little vacation, and for all those that get a chance to take them, good for you, because I don't get a chance to take them, but I live in a vacation destination here in Las Vegas. You know what was interesting? Before we got on here, we were talking about the Formula One races and stuff like that. And the Formula One racing here in Las Vegas was really cool to see. I have to tell you that much. It was super cool. But, Dave, I think that a lot of people overestimate, I suppose, the negative effect of what happens with these big races when they come to town. For years and years, I lived in Southern California. We had, of course, the Grand Prix of Long Beach there, right? And so they tear apart Shoreline Drive over there, and it's a little bit of an inconvenience, but it's not too terribly bad. But here in Las Vegas, folks, in case you don't know, if you saw it on TV, it was super cool. But there are real positives and there are some real negatives to these things. But overall, going to see one of these races is really something that I think everybody should do at some point. Dave, have you ever had a chance to go see an F1 race?
I have. In fact, I grew up in Montreal, and we have the Circuit Gilles Villeneuve in Montreal, which is really fantastic because it's a permanent track. They don't have to, close down the city streets. So if you ever want to go to Montreal in the summertime, I believe it's late June, early June when they have the race. It's fantastic. It's on an island in the middle of the St. Lawrence River, and it's one or two subway stops from Santa Cruz downtown. So people love going there, including the pit crews and the drivers and all, because they get to stay in a cosmopolitan city like Montreal. They have events going all week long. I mean, they'll close down one or two streets. They have pit crew challenges, and the city, the influx. I mean, people fly their Lamborghinis in from Europe, and they drive around. They drive around the street. There's all these Lamborghinis and expensive cars driving on the streets. People are partying. People are out in the decks, the terraces in downtown Montreal. But the race itself doesn't inconvenience the citizens because get on the subway, you go 2 stops, come up the stairs, and you're there at the race. And it's a fantastic place to be.
Wow, that's great. See, now here we've got the race for, well, they say 10 years, but really it's supposed to, The first is 3 years, and they have a renewal from there. You know, F1 has failed in some U.S. cities, but I think for all the wrong reasons, too. I mean, the infrastructure wasn't necessarily there, and they didn't plan it properly. I think here in Las Vegas, we have a permanent paddock area. I mean, it is enormous what they have built in such a short time. So I think it's going to be here for 10. And I think the planning maybe next year, the year after, is going to get better as they go along, kind of like what you're saying for a permanent track. Not really sure how they're going to do the tree removals and put the trees back. A lot of people are complaining about that, but what a cool thing to see here in Las Vegas. And, of course, I'll give them a round of applause for that. Not the super applause, because there was a lot of inconvenience, but it was a super cool thing. And I think next year I'll be hopefully right in the middle of all that mess. But, you know, speaking of a mess, let's talk about when there's a goal in hockey and when the referee intends to blow the whistle. You brought this to my attention earlier, and you know what? I want to hear your take on that, because as a rules analyst for television on ESPN Hockey, how do you explain this to people? Well, you know, the referee had an intent to blow the whistle. How the hell does that work?
Well, you're right. A lot of people lose their mind. They keep quoting the intent to blow the whistle rule, and they think it's some kind of cop-out. But in its purest form, if you just break it down, just because the whistle hasn't gone, just because the puck crossed the goal line before the whistle goes, it doesn't mean you're entitled to score a goal. And if we break it down in its purest form, let's say the attacking player, the puck goes up in the air, and the attacking player bats the puck with his hand to his teammate. And his teammate one-times that shot. So he doesn't stick handle it. The puck comes down, and boom, he bangs it in the net. And the referee just doesn't have time to get the whistle to his mouth.
It's a hand pass, first of all.
But it's a hand pass. So are we saying we're going to allow that goal because the referee hadn't blown the whistle yet? Well, of course not. So the referee intended to blow his whistle, couldn't get it to his mouth fast enough, and the puck ended up in the net. We still disallow that goal. So, I mean, I'm really breaking it down to an egregious, obvious situation. Where we see it happening a lot is on goal mouth scrambles. The referee comes to the net, and he knows the puck may be frozen. He's not sure where it is. Back in the day before we had video replay, the referee always wanted to kill the play when he lost sight of the puck. That was, you know, going back, you talk to old timers, well, the referee loses sight of the puck, there should be a whistle. Yes and no. If the referee is certain that the puck is covered, he's lost sight of it, but he's certain it's covered, we want the referee blowing the whistle. There's times, though, now we tell the referees, or I say we, I'm no longer on the ice, I'm no longer supervisor, but the direction is, once you blow that whistle, a play is dead. You can't suck the wind back out of your whistle. You don't want to kill a legitimate play. The worst feeling for a referee is blowing that whistle, and as you're blowing it, you realize the puck is lying there loose. And the team bangs it in the net, and there's nothing you can do to reestablish that goal. The whistle's gone. You're not allowed to bang it in the net after the whistle's gone. And it's a terrible feeling. So what referees are instructed to do is have some patience. If you're sure it's covered, by all means, blow the whistle. If you're not sure where the puck is, just because you lost sight of it, a lot of times you can look at the goaltender, and if the goaltender is still and he's not moving, you can be pretty sure he's got the puck. However, there's times where the goaltender's body language, he's flopping everywhere, he doesn't know where the puck is. Players are still poking at it. It's a good chance that puck is loose. Just because you can't see it, it's loose. So have some patience. When you're sure it's covered, blow the whistle. And that's where referees will come in behind the net. They're trying to find the puck. They're not sure where it is. And all of a sudden they see a player jab at the goalie's pad, and the puck all of a sudden now is visible crossing the goal line. That's when the referee blows his whistle. The puck's already in it, blows his whistle, puts his hands up, and he goes, no, I'm not allowing that goal because I wasn't sure where the puck was. But when I saw you jab at it, I saw it come loose. So I put two and two together, and that means it was covered. Puck was frozen. I should have blown my whistle. So I'm killing the play. And that's where my intent to blow the whistle. I couldn't find the puck, but I now realize that that puck was covered. My intent should have been to blow the whistle. I'm not allowing that goal. And guess what? If you don't blow the whistle in time and the puck gets knocked loose into the net and you would decide to award the goal, the team that gets scored on always has the option now to a coach's challenge. They say, we think that puck was covered underneath the goalie's glove. It was knocked loose. We're calling a challenge for goalie interference. And, 99 times out of 100, you look at it in the replay, you go, yeah, the puck was covered. It was knocked loose. No goal. So it's rectifying itself. But you blow that whistle too soon, you take away a legitimate goal quite often, and we don't want that.
So what about, okay, in our last minute of the segment here, what about the idea of the off-ice official? Do they exist, and what role do they have?
The off-ice official, as we know it, is the scorekeeper, the timekeeper, the statisticians. There's no off-ice official other than the Situation Room in Toronto. And they're there to confirm a legitimate goal or to review a coach's challenge. Unfortunately, we don't have another referee up in the box that's assisting the referees. That's not there yet. I know people are calling for it, but it's a sticky situation. Where do you draw the line? Who says his judgment is better than the referee's judgment on the ice? So I still think a lot of things would have to be ironed out before you had an extra referee in the press box. Right,
or even next to the rink or whatever. At the end of the day, you still have to have some kind of visual. And let's face it, even if you're along the boards on the other side of the glass, you may be closer, but you don't have the same angles that the cameras do, because now all over the stadium, there's cameras. All right, so I'll tell you what, folks, we're going to be back here with Dave Jackson talking NHL hockey and just hockey in general, because we have some more hockey topics coming up. Folks, don't go anywhere. Lots more to come here on the Sports Circus. Back in just a few moments.
Welcome back to the Sports Circus. I'm Roy Firestone. Now it's time to throw it back to Sal.
My favorite one had to do with the Green Bay Packers. And I love the fact that they dealt off Ty Montgomery because of a blown assignment. Green Bay isn't Green Bay unless they have a good running game. Then they can win 10 Super Bowls. The fact is, you don't have a running game. You've got 70% passing, and that's not where Aaron Rodgers needs to be. He needs to be in a position where he's got a running game to offset the passing game and so forth. I like the move. Green Bay didn't have a running game anyway, so all they're doing is saying, we're going to get rid of you because you don't follow instructions.
Well, he made one of the most boneheaded plays I've ever seen. There's 2 minutes and 5 seconds on the clock. They traded him on Tuesday.
They should have cut him on Sunday night.
He shouldn't have been on the plane back to Green Bay.
Right, they should have made him walk back to Green Bay.
No, it was a terrible play. Now, he's not a stupid guy. He went to Stanford. He's not a dumb guy.
He's not a dumb guy, but he doesn't follow instructions.
He made a terrible play.
The fact is he didn't follow instructions. And you say he's not a dumb guy. His own agenda he put ahead of his team.
I agree.
Thus, he is a dumb guy. Right or wrong?
Wrong. He just got selfish. You're not going to convince me that a guy from Stanford's a dum-dum.
No!
This is Sidney Justin from the Miracles.
So you heard yesterday's show at Roy Firestone. Did you hear a little clip about him going into the office where Smokey was at? And that was really good material, wasn't it?
Yeah, that was really funny, man.
Yeah, and then you heard him.
I thought it was hilarious. It was cool, though. It was cool. Really cool story, man. I enjoyed listening to that.
Right, and then he gave a couple of bars. Can you give us a couple of more from Ooh Baby Baby? And let's see if you could do it better than Roy Firestone. Come on, man!
All right, you know what? Why not? I did you wrong. My heart went out to play. But in the game, I lost you. What a price to pay. Hey, I'm crying. Ooh, baby, baby. How's that, man?
That's
Is that
incredible,
okay? Is that good enough?
That's incredible.
That's fantastic.
You know why? Because that's what you do. You're in the incredible business, Sid. That's awesome. Yes. Only on the Sports Circus. You're going to get sports. You get music.
Welcome back to the Sports Circus. I am Mitch Malloy, the lead singer of Great White.
Welcome back to the Sports Circus. I'm Roy Firestone. Now it's time to throw it back to Sal.
Welcome back to the Sports Circus. Thanks, Roy Firestone, for that throwback to me. All right. From our AMP TV studios, AAMP.TV studios right here in Las Vegas, I'm your Ringmaster Sal, here with NHL rules analyst and ESPN hockey analyst. That would be Dave Jackson. Dave, of course, been in the rodeo for 30-odd years. And we're talking hockey here across all of our television and radio affiliates from Honolulu all the way down to Florida, a whole bunch of points in between. And Dave, welcome back to the show. And, you know, in the last segment, we were talking a little bit about that intent to blow the whistle. Because, like you said, it's such a contentious issue. And how do you get the hockey audience away from their preconceived notion, well, you know, maybe he did intend to, or maybe he didn't do it. It's kind of an arbitrary thing. How do you explain that to the general public where they kind of wrap their head around and say, okay, I got it, so let's move on?
Yeah, I think what you just have to keep doing is exactly what I'm doing. Explain the rule, give situations that, you know, break it down to a very egregious situation that you can get them to agree upon, and then work backwards from that and explain how the rule evolves. But when it comes right down to it, it's about doing what's fair. And if you look at a lot of these cases where there was intent to blow the whistle, and that's why the goal was disallowed, if you ask people, should this goal count? In a perfect world, should this goal count? And they all usually say, well, no, the whistle should have gone. But it didn't. So what we're doing is we're going exactly. So that's how we rectify it. The whistle should have gone. This is an unfair advantage the attacking team got, and we're not going to allow that goal. And okay. we have another thing, which go ahead, Sal.
No. Go ahead. I'm going to fill in after this.
We have another rule which people are confused with sometimes, and it's called the culmination of a continuous play, which is almost the opposite of what we're talking about, intent to whistle. And that is a case where, you know, a guy will be coming down on a semi-breakaway, but he knows the defenseman's catching him. The defenseman's coming from an angle. He knows he's not going to get to the net unchecked. So he takes a slap shot from, let's say, the top of the circle. The goalie goes down on a butterfly. The puck hits him sort of in the 5-hole. And all of a sudden, you can't see the puck anymore. So what the referee does is, if he happens to be on that side of the ice, he doesn't have a backside view. He thinks the puck's frozen. He blows the whistle, kills the play, because he doesn't want the oncoming player to poke at the goaltender. You know, you want to protect the goaltender. And just as he's killing the play, as the sound is coming out of his whistle, that puck wasn't covered, and it's rolling on its own simultaneously or immediately thereafter, and it crosses into the net. We can now allow those goals because there was zero effect on the puck by the whistle, meaning nobody knocked it in after the whistle. The goaltender letting up on the whistle didn't cause the puck to fall loose and go in the net. This is a case where the puck was on its way across the goal line as the whistle went. In the past, those would be disallowed. It'd be just unfortunate the whistle went too soon. But now, because the culmination of a continuous play is what it says in the rule book, the puck was on its way or simultaneously crossing the line as the whistle goes, we can now allow those goals.
No kidding. Wow. I mean, there are so many. Look, there's a lot of interpretation that goes on in your position, right? So those kinds of goals.
Fair. What's fair for the game?
Right. And I think that's the part that the general public is missing. Like, look, what is fair and reasonable? And the same thing in business. We have to ask ourselves, what's fair and reasonable? Was somebody treated pretty fairly? Whether it's in court, were they treated fairly and reasonably? So what about the idea of the cross checks? We see a lot of cross checks, lots and lots of those. Some of them are called, some of them are a lot stronger than others. Some are more egregious, right? But where do you draw the line on a cross check? Which one is going to be called? Which one isn't? We see it every game.
Well, I think, 2 or 3 years ago in the playoffs, there was kind of an epidemic of uncalled cross checks. And the league and the officiating department realized maybe we have let our standards slip a little bit. So they came out 2 years ago with heightened awareness on cross-checks. And you saw coming out of preseason, I mean, there were 4 or 5 cross-checks called every game. And everybody was saying, well, now the referees are overreacting. There's too many being called. But I think the only way to really get compliance is you have to nail it hard. And you've got to drive down on the fact you're calling the cross-checking penalties. And then as the season progresses, guess what happens? The referees, they become more comfortable with the standard. They don't back off because of pressure. They back off because of realizing maybe we overcalled a couple of shoves and pushes that are still legal. Maybe we overcalled those in preseason to try and make a point. But now that the games mean something, we realize that we need to get the standard where it actually has to be a penalty. And then you get the coaches yelling at their players going, stop doing it, guys. We're tired of killing penalties. Stop doing it. Wrap the guy, use your hands to make a check. Don't use your stick. And that's how you gain compliance. We did it years ago with the hooking and holding. You don't see hooking and holding anymore. If you do, it's called. Right? You remember in the 90s? You'd water ski behind a guy with your stick. It doesn't happen anymore. Right. It just doesn't happen. You watch what they call classic hockey, which is, I think of classic hockey is the 40s and 50s, 60s. But, classic hockey now is a turn of the century. It's year 2000. And you're watching guys driving the net without the puck, and they got a guy water skiing on them with that stick. Doesn't happen anymore. Coming out of the lockout 2005, we called everything. We called hooking, interference, obstruction, holding, and it was tough. It was rough. There was penalties, games with 20 penalties. But guess what? The players adapted. Players adjusted, and they don't do it anymore. Same thing we did with slashing. Guys were getting their hands broken. Little slashes by the hands, and the referees used to have to try and, those happened so fast, the referees used to have to try and almost guess, did he get the hand or did he get the stick? And it was tough, really tough, because it happened so fast. So what did we do? Increased enforcement. And now we said, any slash near the hands is a penalty, because it's not a hockey play. You're not going for the puck. You're not going for the lower part of the shaft of the stick. Mm-hmm. When you slash a guy up near the hands, even if he misses hands, even if it's that far below his hands on the shaft of the stick, that's not an attempt to play the puck. That's an attempt to knock the stick out of his hand, get his glove, or intimidate. So the league said, hey, referees, any slash that's not a hockey play near the hands, call it a penalty. You don't have to see him get the hands. If it's anywhere close by, call it. And now you don't see it as much. Guys aren't breaking their fingers, breaking their hands the way they did.
So are you calling, okay, when you're on the ice, let's go back 20 years, whatever. You were on the rodeo for 32 years on the ice, thereabouts? Yeah. Okay.
32 years.
So let's just say you've got to play away from the puck, and maybe you anticipate the puck is coming, and the defensive player uses his stick to stabilize or immobilize the offensive player's stick. So he's basically holding his stick down so he can't play the puck, right?
Yeah.
But he does it in a two-handed slash movement, but it's not necessarily that movement. Would you call it, or would you let it roll?
Well, in fact, the rule book actually still states to this day that stick-on-stick contact is permitted. So if you immobilize another guy's stick with your own stick, and it's not a slashing motion, I mean, you're allowed to do that.
Right.
You're allowed to take his stick out of the play if you think the puck's coming to him.
Right. And you can, of course, because we see it all the time. They're lifting the stick so
you can lift
can't
his
receive a
stick.
pass.
You can put your stick over top of his stick, but you can't knock it out of his hand.
Correct.
Now that became a real ploy. We couldn't hook, we couldn't hold, we couldn't interfere with guys anymore. So what are we going to do when he's got me beat? I'm going to knock the stick out of his hand, or I'm going to slash his stick and break it. And it took us a while to adjust to that. It was like, wow, this is a new technique, a new tactic the players are using. Mm-hmm. And then guys got on board and said, no, we're going to call it slashing. We're going to call it interference. Take your pick, but you can't do that.
Okay, so here we just have a couple of minutes left in this segment. I'm going to kind of preview this. Of course, are you going to stick around with us for a little bit longer? Or
Sure.
Okay.
Sure, I got some time.
All right, because what I want to do in the next segment, I want to talk more about the 3-on-3 overtime. I love the 3-on-3 hockey. But what I don't like is I mean, look, I get the whole puck possession thing. I'm cool with that. But you could watch these and say, all right, one team is going to try to possess the puck for the entire time. So they're going to be in the offensive zone, and then they're going to drag it back all the way across the checkered red, back behind their own net, which, when it comes to rules and development and enforcement, in the next segment, I want to talk a little bit more about that, because I think there are some adjustments that can be made to keep that puck possession, I've got the ball, I got the ball, I got the ball kind of thing. I'm going to go home with the ball. Well, I'm going to go home with the puck in this case, and I'm going to go sit behind my net, and I'm going to take this to a shootout, because we're better in shootouts than we are on this 3-on-3 thing, because maybe we don't have the speed to keep up with your club. That kind of stuff. Because we see that on a regular basis. There are some clubs that are significantly faster than others. I mean, Colorado is lightning fast, as you know, right? Yeah. Those guys, they could put 3 dudes out there that could skate circles around damn near everybody else, except, of course, Connor McDavid, right, and a few select others. So when we come back from break, I want to go over that because, look, I dig the whole 3-on-3 idea, but I just don't like the continual delays. Well, let's set up this. Well, we didn't get it set up right. Let's set up. Screw that. We're going to cover that with NHL rules analyst for ESPN Hockey. That's Dave Jackson. 32 years in the rodeo. Now he's off the ice calling all these things that he sees for television. And folks, pay attention to Dave because he certainly knows what the heck he's talking about. Make sure you follow him on social media. Dave, what's your social real quick?
Well, mainly X or Twitter. What used to be called Twitter, it's ESPN Ref NHL. And I'd be glad to answer people's questions. A lot of people hit me up with rules questions. I do my best to answer everyone.
All right, folks, Sean Cody, our last more to come here on The Circus. Back in a few. I'm your Ringmaster Sal of the Sports Circus, a primetime, nationally syndicated television, radio, sports, and entertainment show. The Sports Circus covers topics others are too scared to talk about. There's no other primetime show like it on here that'll punch you in the face and you'll beg for more. Join me, Hall of Famers, world champions, and all-star celebrity guests for chaos and controversy here on Libsyn and all podcast platforms, plus thesportscircus.com. Remember, folks, it's a circus and we prove it every day.
Do you own a timeshare? Well, face the facts. You made a mistake. You made a bad purchase. A timeshare is not an investment. It's a money pit that continues forever. If you use your timeshare, that's great. But if you don't and you want to legally get out of your contract, call my friends right now at the Timeshare Exit Hotline. They're an experienced team of lawyers who help good people like you get out of a timeshare contract that they just don't want. Don't throw away your money on maintenance fees. Use it for things you really want. We can help you end your timeshare contract and stop the money drain immediately. If you're ready to move on with your timeshare, call our team right now.
Cancel your timeshare now with a free call. 800-298-3173. 800-298-3173. 800-298-3173. That's 800-298-3173.
If you're trying to quit drinking or doing too many drugs, listen to me. You don't know me and we'll never meet. I had a problem like you once. I drank and used to party a little too much till it got out of control and almost ruined my life. I realized I needed help to fix my problem before it totally destroyed me. If you've tried to fix your drinking and drug problem and you know you can't do it alone, you need to call the National Treatment Advisors. They'll immerse you into a 30-day program to replace your old habits with new habits and totally change your life. And if you have PPO private health insurance, the entire program may be covered. Fix your problem right now before it gets any worse. Get clean. Call now and learn more.
800-957-6209. 800-957-6209. 800-957-6209. That's 800-957-6209.
Are you tired of high cable TV rates? Sign up for Dish today and get a $500 bonus offer while supplies last. Plus, lock in your price for 2 years guaranteed. Call All-American Dish, your Dish authorized retailer now.
800-476-6087. 800-476-6087. 800-476-6087.
Offers require credit qualification, 24-month commitment, early termination fee, and e-auto pay. Restrictions apply. Call for details.
Hey everyone, Dave Jackson here, ESPN rules analyst on ESPN Hockey, and you're listening to the Sports Circus. Wow.
Welcome back to the Sports Circus. I'm your Ringmaster Sal, live from Las Vegas in the AMP TV studio, AAMP.TV. This segment brought to you in part by our friends over at the American Business Trust Company, helping companies with strategy, sales and marketing, capital resources, and establishing companies with physical locations or on the internet. For more information, contact the American Business Trust Company at abtrustco.com. That's abtrustco.com. All right, welcome back to everybody listening in on our CBS, NBC, and Fox Sports affiliates from coast to coast, including our friends over in Honolulu on CBS Sports 1500 KHK. That's home of the New York Yankees and the Alabama Crimson Tide. Of course, welcome in to everybody that may be tuning in with our friends over in Southern California on NBC News, CNBC Financial, as well as right here in Las Vegas, KJPT Jackpot Radio, all the way over to Atlanta, Georgia, WDJY, Auburn, Alabama, WAUD, home of the Atlanta Braves, and all of our other affiliates, even down in South Florida. Folks, we're everywhere you can't get away from us, as well as on television, Cox, Comcast, Spectrum, Frontier, Oceanic, and Time Warner Cable affiliates, and Hotel TV. As, of course, you heard, we were brought back here by Dave Jackson, who is our rules analyst, but also Dave works with ESPN as the rules analyst. Listen, Dave, how did it feel to hear yourself bringing us back from break and you didn't even say a word?
Yeah, I forgot I even did that, and it's funny. You tell me too. I mean, you've been in broadcasting so long. I hate the sound of my own voice. I just I hear it and I cringe, and I think it's probably natural.
Listening to yourself for the first time, it's almost like, who is that? And then you hear yourself for a while, like, oh, that doesn't sound like me. Yeah? How do you know? Because you only know what you think you sound like. But when you listen to yourself on air, you're like, oh, I guess that is really what I sound like. And so then maybe you try to tinker with your voice to make it sound like what you want it to sound like. But in reality, you just have to be yourself.
Yeah, I hear you. And I think that works the best for me. Just be myself.
But you have a really good voice for this, too. You've got that deep, gargly, throaty, hockey, tough, rough guy voice. and it actually works. It really works. There are some people, it's nails on chalkboard. You're like, oh, just stop it already. And there are some where you're like, you know what? Like James Earl Jones, right? We think of James Earl Jones, one of the best voices of all time. And my buddy Dan, who does radio work for a whole bunch of radio stations, and Dan's a great guy. His name is Dan Levy. Check him out online, danlevy.com. Dan has the golden voice. In fact, when I call him, I say, hey, what's up, golden voice? He's that guy. And he could sing you a bedtime story, or he could do play-by-play for a game. He just has the perfect voice, and people aspire to have that kind of thing. But for me, I've got a face for radio and a decent voice. Yeah. But end of day, this is all fun and games till I guess someone gets punched in the face. It's kind of like the old Mike Tyson thing, right?
Yeah, it's funny you say that. I took a flight coming home from my vacation on Thanksgiving, and we had a flight attendant, a male flight attendant, who I swear could have been the, on The Price is Right, the guy that announces the "Come on down," and
that's the old Johnny Olson.
Yeah, this guy was a clone, and he was making his announcements for the safety announcements and everything. I said to him after, I go, you ever worked in TV or radio? Because I swear to God, you could be on TV and radio. He goes, no, nobody's ever told me that. But man, he had a great voice.
Yeah.
And the cadence, the way he delivered, it was perfect.
Yeah, sometimes you just have it. And it's like, I'm naturally animated. It's just me. I've always been that way. Some people try to do certain things, but somebody once told me, they said, you should do some kind of bit, whatever, on television. I'm like, for what? I didn't know. Right. And so, in the strangest of ways, it kind of happened, whatever. So again, I'll just kind of keep drinking the Kool-Aid, so to say. But actually, it's not Kool-Aid, Zip Fizz. No, I don't get anything from Zip Fizz for saying that. It's just, it is what it is. But all right, so back to the hockey business. Now, 3-on-3, as I mentioned in the previous segment, for me, it's wonderful. I want the games to get to overtime so I can almost see like a pickup game of hockey. And that's what it really looks like to me. But what I don't like is when you're in the attacking zone and you leave your zone and you regroup all the way in your own, back in your defensive zone. And I really would love to see, hey, look, if you bring this thing across the blue line, it's okay, I get it. But you shouldn't be allowed to go beyond the checkered red. You should have to basically regroup within that area, in my opinion, because it would keep the game flowing. And once you go over, we're going to have a face-off at center ice. That's kind of how I see it. What are your thoughts on that?
I couldn't agree with you more. I was on the ice still when we brought in the 3-on-3 overtime, and it had to be the most exciting hockey that I've ever been part of. It was just run and gun. Guys were going end to end, 3, 4, 5 shots, and then, they'd break out and they'd go 2-on-1 the other way, get a bunch of scoring chances. It was phenomenal. And I think we've lost a little bit of that, like you said in your last segment. It's a possession game now. It's not about just shooting the puck and trying to get it over with. It's about getting the perfect chance to score. And if you don't have that, you're going to regroup, you're going to change players, you're going to go back behind your own net. And I think the GMs, actually, I read a couple of weeks ago that in their meetings, they determined they were going to at least meet next time and maybe discuss it and throw out some solutions and stuff. I don't know if you know this, but I'm the director of officiating for 3 Ice, which is the professional summer 3-on-3 league. Ooh. And it travels around, and there were seven locations last summer where they play. And it's 3-on-3 hockey with no whistles. There's no face-offs, and you drop the puck at center ice to start the first period. You drop the puck at center ice to start the second period. It's 2 halves, 16-minute games, and it's run and gun. And when the goaltender makes a save, teams have to sort of regroup, and then the goalie puts the puck back in play. So it's constant action. And when we were determining the rules, a fellow named E.J. Johnston is the CEO and founder of the league, and Craig Patrick is the commissioner. And the 3 of us sat around discussing how to keep the game exciting. And we talked about exactly what you're talking about, the center ice. And we came up with a rule that once you cross the blue line, as the attacking team, once you penetrate that blue line and it's onside, you cannot go back over center ice. You can come back in neutral zone, but you can't pass or shoot or carry that puck back over center ice. If you do, you lose possession. You have to give the puck away. Now, obviously in NHL hockey, you have face-offs. You don't just give the puck away. But I think a great solution would be if they go back over center ice, you kill the play, and the face-off goes back into their end zone, and they're not allowed a line change. I think that would be enough of a penalty, and it would keep the pressure on, and it would keep teams on that side of the ice, more offensive chances, less regrouping. And if you want to go one step further, you could take the blue line away. Once they cross the blue line, then it just becomes a half-court type of thing. So from center ice in would be all one zone. So you could come back and forth, keep the puck in. You wouldn't have to worry about being onside once you cross the blue line. These are all suggestions. They're a bit radical, but I mean, why not? Right?
Well,
hockey is entertainment.
I love it because it's like a pure pickup game of sorts. The kind of thing you see in basketball on the playground, whatever. I love playing basketball 3-on-3. I mean, to me, that's a lot of fun. I'm terrible, but I like to play. But in hockey, it's such a fun, fast-paced game. And to see that 3-on-3, I mean, you're watching guys with mad skills. They get to showcase their skills. They get to showcase their speed. It's not a lot of hitting. It's just the real skill on the ice. And the goaltender gets a nice clean look, really, because there's a lot less bodies out there. And so if you've got a good goaltender and maybe you've got a good defenseman out there with a couple of forwards, or even 2 good defensemen, maybe an offensive-minded and a defensive-minded defenseman with a good winger, I mean, this could be really exciting. And honestly, I don't even want to see it go into a shootout afterwards. I say just play until somebody's gassed, like an extra innings in baseball, and just let the chips fall where they may.
Well, yeah, there's 2 things there. I mean, I think from a fan's perspective, you'd love to see the game just go till they're gassed. In reality, 3-on-3, there's only about 6 players getting ice time.
Yeah.
And those 6 players might have something to say about, playing 14, 15 minutes extra every second or third game because that's going to wear them down as the season drags on. So I think there would probably be a Players Association issue that you would not have the games go until there's a winner. I mean, that's what playoffs are for. But going back to, calling the backcourt, I think you would see games wrapped up more often without going to shootout because now the guy's got the puck. It scoots over the blue line. Defenseman or whoever has the puck now in the neutral zone, but he knows he can't go back. He can't retrieve. He can't cross that red line. It's going to cause turnovers. And it cause turnovers, you're going to get breaks going the other way. I think you have more games ending in overtime than going to shootout if you had the backcourt rule.
Well, and you know what? Listen, in our last 30 seconds of the segment here, honestly, I'm okay with ties in hockey, just like in the old days, right? And I've seen some great games as you. But, of course, you're right up there with the action. But I've seen some great games that have ended like 5-5 ties. We'll talk about that on break when we go to commercial break. In fact, I'll let this go and I'll just keep it going. But I think about the idea, look, if you can't win in 3-on-3, just end it. But a shootout, when you look at the idea of a shootout as far as from the fans' perspective, now I only speak from the fans' perspective. I haven't done what you've done on ice. I can't skate, right? I mean, that's just me. But when we think about the shootout idea, it takes away the penalty shot, the allure of the penalty shot, because now you've got 6 penalty shots, whatever. And to me, that's the most exciting play in hockey, and why diminish that? Don't go anywhere, folks. Lots more to come here on the Sports Circus. Back in just a few moments.
Attention business owners, you and your customers are listening to this commercial right now. Face it, every business needs customers, even yours. The Sports Circus is a primetime nationally syndicated program that's carried on ABC, NBC, CNBC, and Westwood One News affiliates, plus CBS, Fox, and NBC sports affiliates across North America with coverage from Hawaii to New York. Also, the Sports Circus is available to the 180 million subscribers on iHeartRadio, and the Sports Circus gets about 4 million website visitors per month, which could click through your website and bring sales. The Sports Circus provides great content featuring celebrity guests from sports and entertainment to our audience every weekday, which your company could greatly benefit from by increasing your visibility, foot traffic, eyeballs to your website, and calls from potential customers. Call us right now at 702-799-9935. Again, 702-799-9935. Or email us at info@thesportscircus.com. That's info@thesportscircus.com. Drive your sales today by advertising with the Sports Circus.
If you served in the Marine Corps, by now you know about the contaminated water problem at Camp Lejeune. If you were stationed or worked at Camp Lejeune from 1953 to 1987, you probably have a lot of questions. We have some answers. You could be entitled to compensation. Billions of dollars are being allocated to pay for damages to anyone stationed at Camp Lejeune during that time. Unfortunately, it appears that officials may have known the contaminated water problem existed and did little to protect their men. The Semper Fi code was not honored. If you or someone in your family has developed a serious illness, including various forms of cancer, call this Camp Lejeune legal support line right now. You can't turn back the clock and change what happened, but you can certainly call right now and learn your rights as a Marine. Here's the number.
800-852-5186. 800-852-5186. That's 800-852-5186. Paid for by Legal Alert Line. Could you use a little extra money right now? If you'd like to borrow up to $100,000 and get pre-approved in minutes, call the number we'll give you at the end of this commercial. Our lending partners have already loaned millions of dollars to individuals just like you, and we're ready to lend you up to $100,000 if you qualify. Even if your credit is not perfect, you could use the money to pay off high-interest credit cards, for home renovations, or consolidate existing debt. You can get flexible, easy-to-pay terms. The consultation to find out if you qualify is free. To find out if you qualify for our special financing program, call this toll-free number 24 hours a day. 800-335-1376. 800-335-1376. 800-335-1376. That's 800-335-1376. Important terms and conditions apply. Not all applicants will qualify. Loan amount, annual percentage rate, and term will vary depending on creditworthiness. Applying does not guarantee approval. Account approval is subject to verification and confirmation of your credit history, and acceptance by a lender. If you choose to apply for a loan through us, a consumer report will be obtained to evaluate your creditworthiness in connection with your application for credit.
Welcome back to the Sports Circus. I'm Tom Brenneman. How do you not love that music?
Welcome back to the Sports Circus. I'm your Ringmaster Sal, live from Las Vegas in the AMP TV studio, AAMP.TV. Folks, make sure you check out the sportscircus.com for our upcoming guest, our prior guest, our recorded shows, which are podcasts that can be found on all podcast platforms. And also, make sure you check out our partners page. Lots of great partners there, and some of them have been with us since the very beginning. And you know, Dave, we've actually been at this now for 7 years, a long-running show here on the Sports Circus. Yes! 7 years. We just did a whole week of some of those reflective shows. We have some really fun segments with whether it's music or sports or whatever the hell, because we cover everything now. We just started out just sports. But folks, make sure you check out the partners page as well. They've been with us for many years. College of Southern Nevada Athletics, csncoyotes.com. Check them out for upcoming events, csncoyotes.com for the College of Southern Nevada Athletics. All right, welcome back to everybody. You know who you are. TV, radio, CBS, NBC, Fox, all of our independent affiliates, TV, radio again, and everybody streaming on Facebook. Thanks for joining us as well. Back here with Dave Jackson, ESPN rules analyst for ESPN Hockey. We're talking a little bit of hockey, and it was the 3-on-3 hockey in the last segment. Look, I could talk about this forever because I love it, and penalty shots. And the diminished value, just I'll kind of wrap this one up, and you can give a final comment. I believe that the 3-on-3, the games should end in 3-on-3. If you can't score, maybe extend it for maybe 6 or 7 minutes, whatever the heck it is. If you can't score 3-on-3, then the game's just not supposed to be sided one side or the other. I think it just let it be if you can't do it. What do you think?
Well, I've always hated ties, so I like to see a winner and a loser at the end of the game. Sometimes if you take someone to the game that, you know, they may only get to 1 or 2 games a year, or not even that, 1 or 2 games every 10 years. To leave there without really being super disappointed because your team lost or the elation of your team winning, I think you're missing out if you don't have those kind of emotions. So I don't particularly like ties. I like to see a winner and a loser.
As do I, but you alluded to the idea. When I said let them play until they're gassed, like extra innings, you're like, well, you know, some of the guys wouldn't like it. I get it. But Dave, I could tell you, and I have this burnt in my head from back in the 1990s. Here, I grew up in Chicago. I'm a big Blackhawks guy. It is what it is, right? It is the hated rival of the Hawks and Wings. I mean, to me, it's the ugliest rivalry in all of sports. And I've seen them all. I've been to those games. And I think it's truly as ugly as it gets, even in the seats, the fights that happen. They bust down 5,000 people from Detroit to come down. And, you know, obviously now with Patrick Kane going to the Detroit Red Wings, I mean, you want to talk about a real big pill to swallow for Blackhawks fans seeing 88 in red and white now instead of black and red?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
But I will say this. The most exciting hockey game I ever have seen, it was those two teams, and Detroit was up 5-0, and it was late in the third. I think there was about maybe 6 minutes left in the game, and of course all the Wings fans were doing their Let's Go Red Wings things, whatever. And you know, of course, it's Chicago, and you've been to Chicago during these games between those two, and there is one very popular thing that you will hear in Chicago when Detroit is on the ice or even in the area code. And nowadays, well, frankly, you just hear it, period. And I think you know where I'm going with this one. And I think it goes a little something like this.
Detroit sucks! Detroit sucks!
Right, so it's a very common thing you would hear. But I have to say, the most exciting thing I saw was that 5-0 lead disappear into a 5-5 tie Somehow in the last 5-6 minutes, the Hawks tied it up. They rung up 5 in the third period. I mean, the place went bananas, of course. And then, of course, there's all the fights and all the chaos in the seats. But that game, to see that one end in a tie, I mean, for me, it was exciting just because you thought, I mean, the game was over, right? People were on the buses, going home. But imagine if you would have had an overtime 3-on-3 to finish that one off. That would have been super exciting.
That would have been good. But, going back to the shootout, I don't necessarily mind the shootout. I think it's exciting. You get to see a lot of creativity on it. But go back to, you just talked about baseball. Years of tradition, right? Extra innings. Play till somebody wins. But what do they do now? They put a guy on second base. Right?
It's Little League. And I'm a former baseball player, and that drives me crazy. Oh, you love it, but I can't stand it. Oh, no.
Well, who wants to sit there for 17 innings?
It's bonus baseball. When you're a kid, you got bonus baseball. You grew up in Montreal. Think about the Expos playing, right? If you're a little kid, you're like, hey.
I understand.
Yeah, man,
I understand. But if you bring your kid to the game, and you're there till 1 a.m. I mean, you look at the ballpark when you get those 17-inning games, there's nobody left. Nobody's staying for those games. So I think having the runner on second base, I think it's great. It's entertainment, and that's why we play the games, for entertainment, right? So in 3-ice in the summertime, when there are no penalties, when an infraction is committed, it's a penalty shot.
Mm-hmm.
But it's a jailbreak penalty shot, meaning all the other players line up on the far blue line, and as soon as the shooter touches the puck in motion, everybody chases the shooter. So you don't get those sort of where the guys come in from the side and they do slow motion and they do a little spin. No, they're being chased.
Right.
So it adds more of a breakaway element to it versus a shootout element. And it's more of a hockey play.
That. I really maybe the NHL would go to that someday because that's actually better. So you get guys like Patrick Kane that would basically stall out in front of the goalie and stick handle for 10 seconds and then poke it past the goalie.
Right. You can't do that in 3-ice because you're gonna get the puck stolen from you.
I like that.
Yeah.
But let me make one more comment on the baseball thing. As kids, the reason we liked the bonus baseball and everybody would file out of the stadium is because the likelihood of getting a foul ball was a lot greater because there's a lot less people there.
And a better seat.
Absolutely. Right?
Yeah.
All right. So we'll certainly give that a plus. Hey, I want to touch upon the neck guard idea, right? Because there's a lot of that talked about because the guy who died. What are your thoughts on neck guards for the players?
Well, they're mandatory in amateur hockey. At least in Canada. I'm not really sure I know USA Hockey was throwing it about and they were going to make a decision on it. I'm not sure ultimately what they decided, but I think definitely as a kid, you should be wearing one. You grow up wearing it. Once you get to, much like helmets, right? Much like visors. Players didn't wear visors in the NHL. But after a number of years, everybody coming into the NHL wore a visor growing up. It was second nature. So maybe you just keep pushing. There's NHL players wearing neck guards now that wore one in junior, and it just became second nature, and they still wear them. I think if you can make them comfortable enough and they're not too hot, I think players will do it. It takes a while to adjust. Referees never used to wear helmets. Even when the players had to wear helmets, the referees didn't wear helmets. I chose not to wear one because if you put a helmet on, you were seen as sort of a rookie, and the veterans didn't wear helmets. It wasn't until they mandated that they grandfathered the old guys in, I was forced to wear a helmet. I didn't like it. After 1 or 2 games wearing a helmet, I got used to it. I wouldn't have taken it off. Then the younger guys started wearing visors as officials. Mm-hmm. I didn't like it. My wife and daughter told me, why aren't you putting a visor on? I'm like, because just this macho thing, it creates a barrier between you and talking to somebody. And they're like, yeah, but you only get one set of eyes. And I still refuse to do it. And I have no legitimate reason for not doing it. I should have worn it. Then they mandated it, made it mandatory for me to wear a visor. I didn't like it. After about a week, I got hit in the visor a couple times, and I went, wow, this visor just saved me. And I wouldn't go on the ice without one now. So I just think it's evolution. It will happen. I think it's great. I know as referees, most of them wear Kevlar wrist guards, Kevlar socks, to protect your Achilles tendon and stuff. So it's an evolution. I think someday it'll just become second nature and guys will adopt neck guards.
Yeah. And, I think it's kind of getting to that point anyway here in our last couple of minutes. Hey, Dave, real quick, tell everybody how to follow you once again so they get all this hockey knowledge from you on a demand basis.
Well, you can watch ESPN Hockey, which is the place to go for all the hockey games you want to see. But I'm on the games ESPN produces. I'm the rules analyst. Any controversy happens, I'll try my best to explain it. And you can follow me on X, the former Twitter. ESPN Ref NHL is my handle. And I answer as many questions as I can. People, some people shout at me. Those people get muted. But legitimate hockey fan and has a hockey question, more than happy to answer them.
All right, that's good stuff. And, Dave, listen, I watch as much hockey as I can. And what I do like, I listened to the interview with Patrick Kane about him going to Detroit. And, of course, I have to give a big boo because I'm a Chicago guy. But, I understand the business side of it. And good for Pat playing his game. And I'm okay with the idea. Look, I want to see the great players out there. And, look, he still has it. But if he could come back fully from this injury, I mean, good for him, good for his family. And I think it's good for hockey because it gives some of those guys the ability to get out and play when they thought, hey, look, this was like the ending injury. Look at Nicholas Backstrom. Couldn't really play after that injury. And I think Jack Eichel, as a matter of fact, had something similar, and he's able to play too. Right, so here I think it's good for hockey that Patrick Kane's playing. I mean, I don't like who he's playing for, but I good for him, and I think it's good for the evolution of the medical side of the business.
Sure. Well, as a Blackhawk fan, I'm sure you would have just loved to see him playing alongside Connor Bedard. I mean, what a dream matchup that would have been.
Wow, and Bedard is he's a special player.
Yeah, he's a good player.
He's a good player,
he's gonna be great.
But he doesn't have the speed of McDavid. Does anybody?
Well, who does?
Does anybody? I mean, it's like trying to keep up with a Ferrari if you're in a Ford Pinto. It just doesn't happen, But
no, there's generational players that come along like McDavid. Before him, you look at the guy like Pavel Bure.
Yes,
Russian Rocket, I believe was his nickname. I mean, he was the same way. You couldn't catch him.
Yeah,
too fast.
Man, that guy was lighting even on the EA Sports game. EA Sports. It's in the game, right? Even that hockey game, Pavel Bure was uncatchable. You just couldn't catch the guy. There are guys, and I love that about these video games. I used to play them all the time. I don't have time to play them anymore. But yeah, you take a guy like Connor Bedard, and he's got those crazy stick handling skills. I saw him make the great backhanded sauce pass yesterday. It was unbelievable. But at 18 years of age, this kid's going to be a special player. But now the Hawks need to add some more players. But nonetheless, we'll see what your Canadians do. And I know you've got to be impartial right at this point. But you probably grew up rooting for those guys, yeah?
Well, back in the day. I mean, I was a child of the 70s, born in the mid-60s, and actually appreciating hockey when I was a kid. And I think the Canadians won 5 of 10 during the 70s, right?
I know.
I think they had five cups. So yeah, I'd cut class and I'd go watch the Stanley Cup parades. But I mean, you realize pretty soon once you start refereeing professional hockey,
right,
that you're no longer idolizing the players. You're too worried about doing your own job. So
absolutely,
now I'm just a fan of hockey.
Absolutely, yeah, me too at this point. All right, folks, thanks for Dave Jackson joining us today. ESPN Rules Analyst with ESPN Hockey. I'm your Ringmaster Sal, and we'll see you next time right here on your favorite station. Until then, so long, everyone.
That's the sound of sizzling, dry-aged USDA Prime Wagyu and Angus steaks from UppercutChops.com. Their best-in-class filet mignons, New York steaks, and the king of all steaks, the tomahawk and cowboy cut ribeyes are the best in the business. Even their Prime Wagyu burgers will likely be the best you've ever had. Browse the full selection of steaks and chops at UppercutChops.com from the comfort of your home or on your mobile device. UppercutChops.com delivers all-natural, dry-aged USDA Prime Wagyu and Angus steaks and chops directly to your door, without the hassle of going to the grocery store and fight crowds to pick from a small selection of average at best meats with injected steroids, fillers, and coloring added to look good. Find out what's for dinner at uppercutchops.com or call 702-799-9935. That's 702-799-9935. 702-799-9935. Or make your selection directly at uppercutchops.com.